So I'm bringing on Matt McCabe of Lotsa Helping Hands, which is a tech platform that we're going to learn about today. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but I think it's super well thought out and innovative because it helps organize the network that our elders and other people of all ages have who need support. Organizing that network is a super challenging task, and being able to utilize technology to help us organize that task is something that is really important. So Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me join today, and I'm excited to share what we've been doing with everyone here. So,
Excellent. So before we jump into Lots of Helping Hands, let's get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led up to you joining the team at Lots of Helping Hands.
Oh, Steve, you're there. Sorry, that might be an internet issue on my end.
Okay.
Lost you for a second.
My apologies. This is the occupational hazards these days. I was going to say, let's tell us a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
your background and what led up to you joining the team at Lots of Helping Hands.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have a long and varied sort of history, but I've been after graduating college with a degree in English and philosophy, I pursued an artistic route for a while, making short films and documentaries. Ended up working and living around the world in a couple different places. So worked at a media group in London, was in DC for a while with my wife, and then she got a job over in the Middle East, and we lived there while I worked for a software company for a number of years in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And ended back where I am now in Dallas, Texas, right around the birth of our first son. But most of my career has sort of existed at the confluence of, I'd say, three things: technology, entrepreneurship, and social good. Having worked from software companies that work with nonprofits to having started a number of ventures myself, I actually did not found Lotsa Helping Hands. Rather, I joined it and took it over from the original founders because, frankly, I'm passionate about the space and it's very close to my heart. I sort of stepped into this world understanding from my own personal experience what it's like to be a caregiver, whether that was for a dear friend who was not aging, but who was younger and dealing with cancer, to my grandmother, and now my parents who are in their 80s. So it's something that it's close to my heart because I feel like I live it every single day.
Great.
And Lotsa is a way to really help to make lives easier for caregivers. And lives easier for, obviously, the seniors who are aging and we're looking to give a sense of dignity to and a sense of empowerment. And that's what really is at the heart of what we're trying to do.
Excellent. All right. Well, I've known about Lots of Helping Hands for many years. When was it actually founded?
It's founded about, it's going on 14 years ago now.
Wow.
Hal Chappell, who was the original founder, along with Barry Katz, they were, folks who'd grown up in the tech world, business people, Harvard MBAs. They went through a caregiving experience and realized, my gosh, this is really messy. This is really messy as I'm trying to take care of someone, to deal with text chains, to deal with email, to deal with phone calls. There's got to be a better way. There's this great thing called the internet. Maybe it could help. And so that was really the genesis of where Lotsa was born, was to say, let's use technology to make care coordination easier but also to allow us to leverage the community and network resources. The term "what it takes a village" is kind of cliched a little bit, but it's true around kids, around aging, around everything. We have these communities around us, and the more those can be leveraged, the more impactful it is for the people we're trying to care for.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for that overview. So let's dive into actually what Lotsa Helping Hands is and what it does. And I'm assuming probably the best way to display that is if you wanted to get us right on the site and sort of run us through a demo. And then at any point, folks, I would encourage you to ask questions or make comments.
And sorry, Steve, I lost you there for a second. Can you repeat that real quickly?
Oh, I was going to say, if you want to jump on and just give us a demo on
Yeah.
what on how it works and how we can use this to help our clients and families.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me, I'm going to share my screen real quick, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
All right, Steve, can you see that?
Yep.
So yeah, I won't go too deep here. I'll try to keep things at a high level. Certainly, if anyone has questions or wants me to dig deeper on stuff, we certainly can. But at the heart of this platform is care coordination, and it's volunteer care coordination. So what I sort of call the informal care network, opposed to the formal sort of medical care network. And we're trying to certainly motivate those, not just motivate, we're trying to empower and mobilize is a better word, the communities around folks who need care to step up and to assist in small ways, right? Because, as my mother always said, many hands make light work. So if you can get neighbors, colleagues, friends, and of course, family and loved ones to do one or two tasks here and there, all of a sudden things in terms of caring for someone become a lot easier. We all know there's a primary caregiver usually, and then usually some secondary caregivers. That can be children, that can be spouses. But the more that they can get assistance, whether that's for respite for themselves or just with weekly tasks, the better the care experience is all
Yeah.
around.
And I'm really passionate about this, and I really like the way you framed it, because on a daily basis, I talk to families and individuals who one of their concerns is cost and how expensive all this elder care stuff costs. And maybe mom and dad don't have the assets that enable them to sort of have every choice of senior living options out there. And the solution that I often present to them is, hey, look, just like, babysitters, most of us didn't, as we brought our kids up, we didn't pay every time somebody was taking care of our kids. We had this informal network, and, you called up the girl down the street or your mom or your cousin to help with the kids. And I think this is truly the future of how, well, not the future, it's the way, but I think we can, using a tool like yours, it can help deliver affordable elder care in terms of the bigger the network you have and the more you bring it together, the less your mom is paying out of pocket. But using a tool like this can help organize that infrastructure.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we really view it as it's a both and model, right? So the informal care network is really essential because there's up to a point where folks either can't pay individually or the long-term care insurance or Medicare or whatever it might be is only going to cover so much. But it requires both because the reality is it's very hard for loved ones to bear the entire burden themselves. But there's also, as you said, very rightly, the financial concern about just being able to pay for everything. And so we really see it as a complementary model. In fact, that's why we often work with care managers and with facilities around leveraging this tool. We work with long-term care groups and insurers around leveraging this tool, because there is help that needs to come in, and there needs to be trained help sometimes, and there need to be facilities involved at times. But we also want to connect that back to the family, not just informationally, which communication is a big part of it, but also around helping to support the tasks, whether it's getting someone out, whether it's coming for a visit, whether it's a ride to the doctors, which, these simple things are all very important things that we know make a huge difference in not just quality of life, but even medical outcomes for folks. So let me dive into, this is not complex. Let me dive into kind of how this works, though. It's fairly
Great.
straightforward. So the dashboard, this is kind of the dashboard you see, and it's built almost around a sort of a typical social network sort of framework, where at the center we have an activity feed, and this allows a couple of things. It allows communication, like an announcement, which you see here. And you see a couple of announcements, and that allows communication back to the community around needs, around events, around just anything that's happening. It can include videos, it can include pictures, it can just include things around organizing. It can also include well wishes, which are messages just of encouragement that will go out to those in the community and to the patient themselves around things, or the one being cared for. But really the key part here is what you see at the top, which is the care calendar. And there's a deeper dive on that, but at the top, you just sort of see the next week, and you can kind of drill down on things. So today, Friday, December 11th, and obviously this is a demo community that I've set up, but there are physical therapy exercises 4 to 5 p.m. because, hey, the PT can be there a few times a week, but maybe you need to do exercises every day. So what if someone can come in and help out with those exercises, whether that's inside of the person's home, or whether that's potentially at a facility they're living at? Either way, they can get some assistance from the outside. On the left side, you see a number of the sort of open tasks. So these are things that are upcoming, and these are things where people need help. So if we were to drill down onto this particular activity, PT exercises, we see that no one has volunteered yet. And so there's the ability, since I'm a coordinator, to decide I want to assign someone to this task. So I can basically say, hey, go to my, my brother or my friend and say, hey, I need you to step up and do this. But obviously individuals can volunteer themselves as well. And there's a lot of capacity around these calendars and around these tasks for not only assignment folks to volunteer and to find things that sort of work for them, as well as to get sort of key information. So while you can create descriptions around stuff, you can also easily create locations and directions, and use Google Maps and other things to help make facilitation as easy as possible. And so those task elements are really at the heart of what is being done inside of the communities. There are a lot of other things people utilize. So things like notes, which is evergreen information. So it could be a shopping list, because this is not unusual at all. We have a weekly grocery run, let's say. Someone's going to go pick up groceries and deliver them, especially in this day and age with COVID. Those things become more and more important, where someone can just drop off groceries and the individual doesn't have to get out of the house or get out of their facility, but somebody can sort of take care of that for them. And so there are ways you can link back things like shopping lists or dietary restrictions if someone's bringing food, or addresses and directions around the home or around the doctor's office, or things like that. So you can communicate sort of key pieces of information. The one other thing, and there's photos, there's well wishes. I won't go into all of that, but one other thing I think that actually is really important is the team and the groups concept. And especially for this audience, the reason I think this is important is because you can create subsets of groups. And when you create subsets of groups, these can be people who help out with certain things. but they could also be professional caregiving or formal caregiving and medical personnel versus folks like family versus the volunteers. And that becomes really important because when I create tasks, um, excuse me, or let's say I create an announcement. This is a communication piece. People will be direct messaged on their app on the mobile phone, or they'll get an email or both. I can decide who these things go to. So I can say that I just want this to go to the family. And so the ability to target both tasks as well as communication to specific groups becomes very important because there are things that need to be protected. Maybe there's something that has some personal health information, some PHI attached to it. And you might want that to go to the medical providers or the care manager, let's say, who's part of this community. And you want it to go to the family, but you certainly don't want that for wider distribution. And so there's the ability to target not just information, but tasks to specific types of people. And in doing that, it allows a lot of flexibility for who can volunteer for things, and not only who can volunteer for things, but who can actually see things and can be part of those things. So there's a level of control that we all know when we're dealing with something as sensitive as this becomes really important. So Steve, any questions around that or anything else you think you'd like me to cover in terms of the tool itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I really liked on there when you showed us the teams is the fact that that you can utilize the paid caregivers and the family network together. I think that's just amazing. And oftentimes without a platform like this, those two groups are operating separately, where there might just be sort of one family member that is communicating with the home care agency, and they're sort of the traffic cop, and that's an exhausting job. And to have it here in a platform where you've got all this transparency and you can see how this builds care plan is really exciting. Well, let's see. Ada says, I was multitasking at the beginning. Oh, yeah, I'm glad. I was going to ask this question, Ada, is this a free service? Like, how do you pay for this?
It is a free service, yeah. For any sort of individual or consumer, this is absolutely free. We have partners we work with. Some of them are nonprofits, some are payers, insurers, some are facilities who sometimes license the technology and create a branded version or customized version for their constituents, customers, users. But anyone can go to lotshelpinghands.com and set up a site, and it's totally free.
But you had mentioned care managers. I could see where this is an amazing tool for a care manager to use, because now they can leverage the paid and the unpaid and communicate with the families. Is that one of your clientele that might sort of buy a package where they can manage this with all of their clients?
Yeah, it is. It is certainly some folks might do that, and that's actually an area where we see a ton of potential. And so one of the things that we've realized, and actually, sorry, I've been pulling something up. Let me see if I can just share this really quickly. Sorry, I'm improvising a little bit here.
Oh, that's okay. While you're doing that, and I don't want to derail you, Joan asks, who takes the lead in administering this? Must there only be one person? So I'm assuming, like, could you sort of like map out the typical, and how many users do you have? Like, how many folks are on this platform?
Yeah, great question. We have about 10,000 active communities.
Wow.
Every year, hundreds of thousands of users. We've had 2.7 million members all time. And so Yeah, it's a fairly it's fairly robust and well used, and frankly, we don't have to market it that much.
Yeah.
People are out there looking for that, and that's certainly part of what I want to get into. And sorry, what was the initial question, Steve? Remind me.
Who takes the lead in administering this? What that led me to, Joan asked that question, and what I was like, since you've had so many users, can you sort of walk us through kind of like the typical, if there is a typical user experience where an
Mhm.
adult daughter might, find you, or they sign up and they build their network, and how that goes?
So, can you see this slide I have up there called the
Yeah,
care
yeah.
journey? Okay. And sorry, I just pulled this up. And I wasn't even planning to walk through this, but I thought it'd be helpful, and I thought this audience might appreciate it, because this is based on a ton of research that we've done, both qualitative and quantitative. So we've done quantitative research. We had about 2,200 people. This was just within the last 2 months, respond to a survey. And then we did 20 separate individual interviews with different type of users that were about an hour long. That helped to give us a lot of information, but sort of develop this. So this isn't just coming out of my head, or one of the analysts said, or one of the customer support folks. This is coming directly from users. So typically, who uses this? Yes, an adult child would be a great example. Could be a spouse as well. But it's usually a fairly close relative who is what we call the primary caregiver. Most of us, are very familiar with that, and they're the ones who do it. But what it looks like in the customer journey is usually there's a precipitating event, and this is even true in aging. I mean, certainly people plan. Okay, mom and dad are getting older, right? Or mom, or just dad. And we want to help them, we want to support them, we need to have a plan together, and there are these very loose kind of plans that exist at a high level. But then something happens. There's a fall, could be a cardiac event, a stroke. There is something that precipitates okay, this is on us now, this is here, we need to spring into action. And so when you have that what just happened moment, and you go into the shock of this is really here, people move into a mode of then all of a sudden learning. That's when they're actively researching. That's when people sign up for things like Lotsa. Here's a platform that can help me organize some help for mom and dad. That's also when they're looking for care options and longer term care options. And so those things are happening at the same time as they're trying to learn. And what Lotsa Helping Hands does, and you'll see this kind of bad green diamond here, is it helps to ease the transition from when something has happened, when you're immediately trying to help, and you're trying to get all the friends and family who also want to help, and they're at their sort of highest point of engagement in this. And it helps ease that transition into figuring out the long-term plans. And that's where we work really, really well with care managers, like you mentioned, or other groups, is because, listen, Lotsa is a great tool. I love it. I'm obviously passionate about it. It's really good for things like cancer and certain chronic illnesses. It's also really good for acute stuff. You get surgery, a hip replacement, a knee replacement. You need help for 4 or 5 months. It's not meant to be a long-term care solution. And I mean that over 3-4 years, because you can lean on the community for acute needs, and you can lean on them for acute needs around chronic conditions when they're first diagnosed or things first happen. But there's only so much you can ask the community to do. And over 3, 4, 5, 6 years of aging, you need professional help. And it takes both together. And so what we like to see in terms of a customer journey is, as you move into an integration phase and folks getting used to it, there needs to be that other element of assistance. And we really believe in the concept of the care manager, because they can say, here are all the things you're not thinking about. You need to, let me help you set up a long-term plan. So anyways, not to get too verbose around it, but that's very much what we see as the care journey, and where Lotsa fits, and then where the more formal, whether it's home health or a facility, but sort of the professional care management exists. Does that make sense?
Oh, I love it. And great illustration, and super thought-provoking in terms of one way to sort of illustrate what we're all going through in this world of elder care with our clients and loved ones and what have you. The Okay. So, oh, good question here from Jan Buchanan. I run a senior village and I see use for this tool amongst our community. Seems though there's uh, a big onboard of information. How do you deal with privacy?
Okay, yeah, so a couple of questions there. I'll stop sharing that for a second. Um, First off, in terms of privacy, I'll address that first, and we'll get to the onboarding of information. In terms of privacy, every community is private. So the only people who can see anything inside of the community, outside of the name of this community and maybe a picture, are people who have been approved by the folks who set the community up, the coordinators or site administrators. So there's no public information out there. You can go search on Google all day long and you won't find one of our communities pop up with information. We take privacy, obviously there are regulatory reasons we have to take privacy seriously, but we really take it seriously beyond that, in that we're not trying to capture diagnoses. We're not trying to capture medical treatment information. We're obviously here to facilitate something that doesn't require a bunch of PHI. And while certainly people are free to enter whatever they want into text fields, we don't sell data, we don't mine data, we're not even trying to look at that stuff. So all of that is behind a wall, and some people want to get into the back end. We sit on AWS on their cloud platform. We have all of those security in place. I mean, the Pentagon is going to use AWS, so security precautions are robust. But we believe that these situations are extremely sensitive, and privacy must be paramount. And we also don't blast out advertising, or we don't sell kind of like a Facebook would do. We don't look at behavior and sell advertising to people based upon some of those things. We do offer some products and services, but I can go through that later in terms of how that's done in a thoughtful and a sensitive way. In terms of the onboarding of information, yeah, it does require a bit. And obviously, we like to work, obviously it's great when we're in a scenario with a partner who might have a care plan in place, and that care plan can be uploaded and it can be adapted onto the care calendar. So all of a sudden we know what tasks need to occur. But yes, if you or I individually were to say, okay, I need this to help mom or dad, or my uncle or whoever, you would go on, you'd create it, you would have to manually add tasks in. So that onboarding piece is manual, unless you're in a scenario where you have someone like a care manager or a facility or a home health aide who can actually upload a care plan that has very specific tasks associated with it that assistance is needed on.
Great. Hey, Jan, I think you got a follow-up question on that. And I think, if you don't mind, I'm just going to bring you on to verbally ask your follow-up question to that. I just prompted you.
Yep.
Yeah, Jan, and again, Jan runs a village in Northern Virginia, and you could really see where this could be a pretty neat tool for that voluntarily, where members of a village, if they could create a Lotsa Helping Hands net community, and then perhaps have Jan, who's the executive director of the village, be part of their care team.
That's right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can, Jan.
Cool. Hey, Matt. Yeah, I run Mount Vernon at home, and I know maybe there's some other villages here. Just, then I thought about, I get it with the onboarding. It's going to be a big slog to get the data in there of all of our members. But in each individual's profile, then you've got maybe a volunteer who can access and see this information, as well as the family member, as well as the care manager and whatnot. I guess my follow-up question was, if that volunteer then is going to be able to see this care plan, which is not really something we'd want the volunteer to see, and so, and let me just tell you right now, what we've got is a system that we work with NV Rides, where it's really just the transportation piece that our volunteers can see. And then, everything else being coordinated through us. I love the idea of consolidating member to member But I just wonder how you if I'm looking at Mr. Smith's site and I can see, and I've inputted the care manager and the nurse practitioner and all these people, and we've got the care plan in there, a volunteer really shouldn't be able to see that. I guess that's what I'm asking is how is that privacy of, individual physical and healthcare stuff not shown to everybody?
So I've shared the screen again. It's a great question. That comes back to the groups concept, right? So I can say that, let's say I'm posting something in the notes section or an attachment or a care plan itself or specific tasks. I can do this for really anything inside the tool. And if I were to say that this is the care plan, I can say, you know what, only the family can see this. And maybe you mentioned, and only the site organizers or people I've approved. I can add another group really quickly here. So all these groups are custom, and it could be medical team, right? And so I can say only these people can see this. So no one else, a normal volunteer, would never see this piece of information. And you can determine what tasks they can see as well as what information. And you can even decide who can edit it, right? So, I could say that I want to let the family and the transportation team see this information because they need to, but I only want the family to be able to edit this information. So you can control not only visibility, but you can control different folks who can edit specific things. And because that, we realized early on that control is really, really important to be able to target things to specific people. And again, I can go into a task. If I'm creating a task, I can do the same thing here. I can say who can see it and who can volunteer for it, because I might not want people to volunteer for certain things. Let's say there's something fairly personal going on where maybe it's need help with exercises to, being there to help someone get ready for a function or an event, or, having a birthday party and we want a task for someone to come help mom or dad get ready. Well, we don't want anyone to be able to do that because that's fairly personal. So we might just say that's only family. And they're the only ones who can volunteer for it, and they're the only ones who can see it. So you're right, that controlling that flow of information, especially when it's sensitive, is really, really important and something that we take very, very seriously.
So let me just, one more piece just to follow that down the path. So let's created a task for Mr. Smith, and he needs transportation to a doctor's visit. Would there be a way, because that's such a big function for us, instead of just having to have a volunteer go into Mr. Smith's site and find that he needs that on this day, how do you globalize then those volunteer tasks and needs, and how does that get communicated to the potential volunteers?
Well, that's a great question. So there are a couple of ways that can happen. We're just going to create one right here just for fun. Let's say next Thursday, there's an oncologist appointment. And that's at 12:30 to 2. So beyond just, locations and doing simple things like that, beyond saying who can see it, which I can do, I'm going to say everyone right now. I can save this task and I can do one of two things. One, once I save this task, there's a daily digest that goes out to everyone who has not opted out of it. That would go out tonight at midnight that says, hey, here are the new tasks. Here are the new things where we need help, right? And so everyone's made aware of, oh gosh, these new things have been added to the calendar. So there's an awareness aspect that gets covered there. I could also come in and say, this needs to happen. And you know what? I know that I've got a particular person who I think really should be the one who does this. So I'm just going to assign them. And when I assign them, they would get notified. Now they could always come in and remove themselves, and they could add a note, say, I can't do it, or I'm busy that day, or whatever else. But I can proactively assign people who will get notified that they've been assigned to this task. And so you can actually be very proactive around these types of things as well. The last piece is if there is something that's really important that you want to be sure everyone gets notified of again, so it's not just going out in this daily digest. Anytime you post an announcement, direct messages and emails go out to everyone in the community. So direct messages, obviously, go to those on the mobile app. And there's a mobile app for iOS, and there's a mobile app for Android, and there's this web app as well, and they all sit on the same backend. You see all the same things. And so if I really knew that there was something important that needed to happen, I would just say, let's say urgent need ride tomorrow. And I would just put in whatever that was. And I create this announcement, and all of a sudden that is gone out now via email to everyone in the community. And I can, 1 second. Can you see my inbox right now?
Yeah.
You can just see that. Okay. Well, this is like a reminder, but these are the things that would go out to remind folks of a particular element, but they also will go out to give people notifications around particular announcements that go out. So anyways, those are the different ways in which you can proactively get things in front of people. And again, if I adjust an announcement to only be visible to a certain group, only they are going to get notified. So no one else will be able to see it in here, nor will anyone else get a notification.
Great. Great questions, Jan. And the cool thing is that since it's free, as like Jan is sort of asking these questions, and there's some others that I'm going to read here in a moment. Since this is free, what I can see, and I'd love to hear any of you after this call who give this a try, reach out to me and let me know the experience, because what you could do is that if you've got a family or an individual or a client that you're working with, it's sort of like, hey, let's try this Lotsa Helping Hands thing. It's free of charge, get it set up and begin. I think probably more than likely, once you get in there and you start playing around, a lot of these concepts are going to become more clear, and you can figure out if this is going to work for that particular family. And if it doesn't, maybe it'll work for another one down the road. But let's see. Ada has has a question. Do all the professionals offering services, such as care managers, offer the services for free? And I think there could be two questions there. Is number one, the care managers don't pay to use Lotsa Helping Hands, but you can have paid services in this network. And in fact, I love it. I love the concept of, let's say that a family is working with a home care agency on an as needed basis. So let's say that you've got an agreement with Shady Acres Home Care, and you understand as the family that their minimum is 4 hours a day, but as long as they get a 24-hour notice in advance, they'll have a caregiver at your house for 4 hours, 4 to 8 hours. You could have your contact at the home care agency in there in a group, and it's sort of like, we need somebody on Saturday from 9 to 5, and now the family is assigning their paid caregiver through the Lotsa Helping Hands platform. Is that a way that it could be used, Matt?
Yeah, it is used that way. So
great.
One of my partners is the long-term care group, the largest administrator of long-term care insurance plans in the U.S. And they often use it that way because, hey, we know that private insurance or Medicare might cover 16 hours a week, right, of home care, and that's paid. And the care manager involved there is paid, and it's going through a service. But there might be 23 hours of needs or 25 hours of needs. So the way Lotsa Helping Hands is used is to delineate the things that the paid home health aide caregiver is going to do and the things that family will step in and do around that. And so that's absolutely an application where in fact, we encourage people to invite them in. Care managers, true care managers, that aren't the son or the daughter or the family or the sort of what we call the volunteer or the primary caregiver historically, yeah, those are all paid positions. And as I said earlier, we really believe it has to be a both and model, that the formal care system and the home health aides to facilities to everyone else needs the support of the volunteer, but the volunteer can't do it all on their own. That at some point they also need professional care and professional care managers to step in, and those are paid, and that's anyways, that's very much part of the model for us.
Great. And I see that you answered Joan had a question on the alerts and notifications, but just to reiterate, and this ties into privacy, is that as the administrator, you pick what people are going to see. So depending on what group you are and the privacy settings, the way that they're set, you're gonna see something different than another user in their specific privacy settings.
Yep.
Let's see.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay. And then Ada asks, what is the process becoming a formal service provider with Lotsa Helping Hands? And just to clarify that this question, Ada, I think that any service provider who a community builder in Lotsa Helping Hands adds you to their roster of providers, you can be included. So if there's an individual and they say, I want Shady Acres Care Management to be included in my teams, that's all it takes. But the question that I think she may have is like, how we have a lot of care providers in the audience. How
Sure.
does a care provider get formally involved with Lotsa Helping Hands, and is it a paid membership or what have you?
No, Steve, yeah, you're right on. I mean, right now, and any care provider who wants to can utilize the tool for free with anyone that they're caring for. And the care provider themselves could set up the initial community and invite the family and set the privacy settings and use it as a scheduling tool, use it as a way to, and obviously most care providers have your own scheduling tools, but this is a scheduling tool that allows you to reach out to the family. It also allows you to communicate with the family. A lot of what happens on the tool actually isn't just around caregiving tasks. It's around, and maybe you saw it on there, but like I had a video. It was actually my son on the roof throwing a football. But people communicate. They share videos. They share photos. Just memories. And so it's a great communication platform so people can see how someone being cared for is doing, and they can also respond in kind. All of that's free. All of that can be done. You wouldn't even need to talk to me or us. I mean, you can use our support channels. Our care team is there ready to support. All of that's free. We do work with agencies as well who say, listen, we want to, figure out how to raise awareness in our community of our services that are available. And so we have communities all across the country in just about every zip code. And so when we formally work together, we do it in one of two ways. One is some people want a branded version of the site and they want to have their own content on there. Great, we'll work with you. We license the software, we support it, all those sorts of things. It's obviously paid for. The second is, we don't need our own branded version, but we want to connect with people in our region who are using this tool because they're obviously working through care, and we want to make them aware. And so we partner together on those things as well, where we say, okay, great, let's enter into a relationship and figure out how we can target people in your area who need help. And again, that's to me, that's at the core ethos of part of what we're doing, is that we firmly believe that making people aware of the care services available to them, because we do believe there's an education gap. And I won't pull it up again, but I could walk you through our research that caregivers spend almost 70% of them spend a majority of their time around medical navigation, just trying to figure out how to keep everything straight between the doctors, the providers, and the physical therapists, and all of those things. And we all know that. I mean, we've all seen that. If we haven't lived it, we've seen it. The binders you carry around. And that's where you believe that organizations that provide home health or assisted living services that have care managers who can actually help someone get their head around that, really are essential, because a lot of these caregivers that use our site they're struggling, they're feeling overwhelmed, and they need that sort of assistance, and they're not even aware of what might be available to them that's even covered by Medicare or Medicaid or insurance. And so anyways, we're big believers in at least educating them around that.
Great, great. Yeah, and as one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because I've always felt like there's a way that Lotsa Helping Hands could be a tool for Sourcebook and the providers that are part of our network. And perhaps there's a way that this has been a great demo because it's given me a bunch of ideas on maybe how we can blend the resource connectors with the families and members that are doing this. Let's see. Monique asks, is there an app on the mobile phone associated with the website? I think you mentioned there is.
Yeah, you can go to the App Store for iOS, you can go to Google Play for Android. There are native apps for both those platforms, and then there's certainly the web application as well. I've been showing it to you on desktop. It's responsive. You can access that through your mobile phone as well. And they all feed off of the same backend. So it's the same information. So it doesn't matter. I could access the website on my laptop and then pull up the exact same information on my phone, at the same time. So
Brenda is asking a question, and I know why, because it almost seems too good to be true. It's sort of, Brenda asks, it's free to individuals, but is there a fee if a business or organization wants to use it to manage their clients? We could share the information about the free use to individuals we serve through our caregiver network. Is there a link that would be best to drive people there? Go ahead and answer that, Matt. It is almost too good to be true, right?
Yeah. No, we get this question all the time. How do you pay for it? How do you make money? And so, the clear answer there is simple. We're not selling data, and we're not, we have partnerships. We don't blast advertisements on the site or anything like that. We do it through two ways. We license the software, as I said earlier, so people pay to use this same software, but they want to put their brand on it. They might want certain information in it. We work with nonprofits. We have a lot of nonprofit partners. We have insurers who are partners. We've worked with hospital systems, long-term care groups, folks like that. So that's one of the ways we fund the operations and make money. And then the other way is folks who do want to target users on our platform. When I say target, it sounds almost a little nefarious, but let's say that you have an agency and you're in Northern Virginia, as an example, and you say, gosh, we'd love to promote our services and what's available. We do educational content partnerships. We put it on the blog. We'll send emails out to the people in that area, make them aware of the services. There aren't really hard sells. We don't go out and do that, but we'll do that. And those will be revenue generating partnerships. Sometimes it's just paid for as sort of, we're going to pay to promote our services to your users in that region. And sometimes they're a little more involved partnerships that might involve a revenue share or something like that. I could talk to anyone who's interested around that. But yes, you can, anyone can go to lotshelpinghands.com. You can share that link with folks, and you can, for them, or they can set up a free site. You'll have full support. And you're welcome to do that tomorrow. So, or today.
You're open 24/7.
That's right.
And let's see here. I'm gonna drop into the chat because a lot of people are asking for it. There's the Lotsa Helping Hands link, and I'm gonna also give you Matt's, whether he likes it or not. I'm gonna drop in Matt's email address. Because I've had a few requests for that, but we'll send this out in the follow-up as well. But well, we are almost done with the hour here. Ada says, thank you so much, Matt. Very knowledgeable, patient, and very detailed. and another village, Sharon Canner from Reston, is wants to reach out and promote this to
Great.
their members. I see there was a message here with somebody that I saw who first saw Lotsa Helping Hands way back when, and they were just blown away to sort of see the new look of it. And so that's great.
Good.
So again, Matt, thanks so much. And any sort of closing thoughts that you'd want to share with folks?
No, I mean, outside of, our goal is, dignity and quality of life, and doing whatever we can to empower that. We think it takes a lot of people, takes a lot of different folks, from obviously, medical providers to formal caregiving. So those are facilities and those are home health folks, to we're trying to do our part, which is one little niche around that, which is how do we get colleagues and friends and family and loved ones to participate in that process. And I think all of those things working together is what we want to be a part of, because I think that really makes the difference for aging. So
awesome. Well, I based on the comments that we're getting here, I can see us having a follow-up, but we're going to reverse. I can see us reversing it, guys. Is that 6 months from now, what I'd love to do is bring all of you who are using Lotsa Helping Hands on, and we're going to present to an audience of one. We're going to share with Matt all the cool stuff that we're doing with this platform. So this has been really good, and look forward to a continued relationship with you. And I look forward to the audience reaching out to both of us and let us know how they're using it.
yeah, definitely. And I'll add one thing there. For stuff that doesn't work or you don't like or is problematic, email me, let me know. So we want negative feedback as well. That's the only way that we continue to improve. So, this is not a perfect platform. So I value any and all feedback.
That's a great attitude. And yeah, we can only get better if we get that critical feedback. So anyways, thanks so much, and look forward to a future relationship. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you having me.
You bet.